Have you ever wondered about the strength of the human spirit? About how a heart can remain unshaken even under the harshest storms? Today, we walk together through the story of Bilal bin Rabah, a man whose journey of faith, resilience, and unwavering belief serves as a beacon for us all. Let's reflect deeply on his life and what it means for us as Muslims. Imagine yourself in the shoes of a man born into the chains of slavery. Bilal bin Rabah was not free to choose his path, yet he chose something that shook the very foundation of his world. He chose Islam. Can we take a moment to reflect on the courage it takes to stand for something true, even when the odds are stacked against us? Are we brave enough to do the same in our lives, no matter the cost? Under the scorching sun of Mecca, Bilal endured unbearable torture. A heavy stone was placed on his chest as he was forced to renounce his faith. Yet his lips repeated only one word, Ahad, Ahad. Allah is one. What gave him the strength to endure such pain? Have we ever asked ourselves if we truly understand the power of saying, there is no God but Allah? How firmly do we hold on to our faith when life tests us with its trials? Bilal's story reminds us that Allah sends help in the most remarkable ways. Abu Bakr, upon seeing Bilal's suffering, freed him from the chains of his oppressor. Brothers and sisters, let us reflect. Are we the kind of people who stand up for the oppressed? Do we extend our hands to those in need, just as Abu Bakr did? Bilal's voice became the first call to prayer, his words carrying the beauty of Islam to hearts near and far. He was no longer a slave, but a Muazzin, chosen by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to call the believers to worship. Have we ever thought about the honor of serving Allah and His people? What role do we play in spreading the message of Islam, not just through words, but through our actions? When Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, passed away, Bilal is one of the Sahaba that grieves the most upon the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, funeral. Picture the streets of Medina filled with silence, broken only by the sounds of mourning. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the beloved leader, the mercy to mankind, had returned to his Creator. Among those grieving was Bilal bin Rabah, a man whose life was transformed by the Prophet. Imagine the depth of his sorrow, standing by the side of the one who gave him freedom, dignity, and faith. As the burial took place, Bilal could not contain his grief. His tears fell like rain, his heart heavy with loss. He had always stood beside the Prophet, his voice calling the faithful to prayer, echoing through the streets of Medina. Now that voice faltered, choked by sorrow. Every time Bilal prepared to call the azan after the Prophet's passing, his voice broke. He could no longer say the words, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, without tears streaming down his face. He felt the weight of calling people to prayer when the one they prayed behind was no longer there. The pain of loss became too great for Bilal. Every corner of Medina reminded him of the Prophet. So he asked for permission to leave, to take his grief to the distant lands of Sham. Yet, even in his departure, his love and loyalty to the Prophet remained unshaken. Years later, Bilal returned to Medina at the request of the Prophet's beloved family. Once more, he stood to call the azan. As his voice proclaimed the name of Muhammad, the city was overcome with emotion. The memory of the Prophet filled every heart, and tears flowed freely. Bilal's story begins with surrenders, not to oppression, but to the truth of Islam. Despite being a slave, he embraced faith with a heart so firm that no chain could shatter it. Imagine the courage it takes to declare Ahad while enduring unbearable pain. Do we stand as firm when tested by life's challenges? How do we nurture the strength to keep Allah at the center of our lives, no matter what we face? In Islam, Bilal's status as a former slave meant nothing compared to his status as a believer. He was elevated to a position of honor as the first Muazzin. Take a moment to ask yourself, how often do we let worldly distinctions cloud our view of others? Are we living the message of equality and justice that Islam teaches us, treating everyone with the dignity they deserve? Through every whip and every insult, Bilal's patience never wavered. He knew that the trials of this world are fleeting, while the reward of the hereafter is eternal. Have we cultivated the patience to endure our own hardships? How often do we remind ourselves that the pain of today is but a path to the joy of tomorrow? Ahead, Allah is one. These words were Bilal's refuge, his source of strength. They remind us of the essence of our deen, the oneness of Allah. How firmly do we hold on to this truth in our daily lives? Do we let it guide our choices, our words, our actions? Bilal's freedom came through the love and compassion of Abu Bakr, who paid a great price to free his brother in faith. This act of solidarity reminds us of our duty to stand with those who are oppressed. How often do we extend our hands to those in need? Are we walking in the footsteps of the companions, embodying true brotherhood and sisterhood in Islam? Bilal bin Rabah's life is a tapestry of faith, resilience, and love for Allah. As we reflect on his journey, let us ask ourselves, are we living as he lived, with our hearts anchored in faith and our actions rooted in justice and compassion? Let his story inspire us to rise above our trials and walk steadfastly on the path of truth.